guys, what's up? Today we're going to replace the screen on a Galaxy S3 without replacing the digitizer. So you want to remove the battery, the SIM card, and your micro SD card. Now I cut this out of the video, but I spent about 15 minutes trying to get the screen off with just the plastic tool that came with the screen. I wound up having to get a really thin knife. I would like to use probably a box opener. And just to get it started, you don't want to actually touch the screen with it. You just want to get it started on the very edge. Remember to watch your fingers here. You could really easily just slip out from the very corner and stab yourself. As you can see, I'm using a heat gun rather than a blow dryer. I personally don't have a blow dryer, so it might be a little safer. My heat gun has two settings, and I use the low setting for almost everything in this. So here we go. I finally got it in just a little bit. I decided to keep giving it more heat. You're going to hear some popping and cracking. The edges of the screen do crack a little bit. Don't worry about it. Just make sure you take your time and apply lots of heat. Remember, as you can see here, my knife isn't actually touching the screen. It's just under the black part where the microphone and the camera are. Whatever you do not want to touch the screen with the actual knife. Now here you can see me using the heat gun with the plastic piece underneath. I wouldn't recommend doing this because I actually melted my plastic a little bit. I would use the knife until you get that whole black part up. Right now it's bending down. And here's where the screen shattered. It actually scared me a lot at first. I was like, oh crap. But it turned out not to be too bad. It doesn't really matter if the screen cracks a little bit. In case you're wondering, I did leave my screen protector on through this process just to hold any little glass shards together that might fall out. Here I am melting the tool again. If you look right in front of the tool, you can actually start to see the screen releasing from the glue on the display. So now we just keep adding heat gently and going really slow. Wherever your screen is cracked, you're going to run into, it's going to get to that point and then stop, and you're going to have to start trying to work it free all over again. It's not too hard, just make sure you take your time and apply lots and lots of heat. If you do run into a spot where it's starting to get difficult, just start to go in the opposite direction. I try to keep upward pressure on the plastic tool so I can keep it off the screen. I didn't want to nick it or anything. I actually didn't at all, which was nice. But just I picked up this heat gun from Harbor Freight for I think $20 or $25, so it really worked. Didn't damage the LCD screen at all, and it probably released a little bit better than a blow dryer would. This was the hardest part for me because this is where all the cracks were, so it took a little bit of finagling. Now you'll notice here I get to the worst part where the crack actually started, and if you notice I'm going to turn around and start going the opposite direction. Because if I would have kept pulling there, I would have just broke the screen right in half and probably would have made it a pain in the ass. Oh, and watch out, the edges of the phone get extremely hot with the heat gun. Kind of burn your fingers. You don't want to drop your phone again. Now watch when you're pulling here, because this button is extremely easy to knock off, and I actually wound up knocking it off. But just want you to watch. And if you see the buttons spring up right there, so if you had like anything to stick it down, like temporary, even like a little piece of chewing gum would probably work well. Now, my phone had a lot of leftover LCD residue, so what I did was I scraped it off with the tool gently. This stuff resembles the sticky crap they put on the back of credit cards when they mail it to you that sticks to the paper. It's not exactly it's not like real sticky, it's kind of like tacky. So here I am failing at keeping the buttons down. There's a little piece of tacky strip type deal that came off with the buttons. Later on, I just use a very small dab of gun lube, hard gun lube, and I stick it on there. But for now, I'm just messing with it. So here the screen glue started to get a little bit hard, so I just reheated it up real quick to make it soft again and pliable. So there's literally probably a million different ways to do this better than I did, but from what I read, this wasn't going to work anyway. So I was just using my my shirt to wipe off the rest of the glue residue. It actually turned out really well, but I would probably look for maybe like a camera lens cleaner or something designed to clean these really delicate parts, and try that maybe next time. So here my button, the center button, actually falls out of the phone, and then I reinstalled it upside down, which wasn't that great, but I fixed it in the end. Now there's two little latches on either side of the button, and the button is actually on like a rubber mount type deal. So the latches are square, and there's squares cut out in the rubber, so you have to get the rubber over the half squares and it'll stick on. If you actually have to see it, it'll make sense to you. So here I actually figure out that my middle button is upside down, and I have to put everything back and flip the button around. Now here I'm actually using just a small dab of a solid gun lube called Frog Lube, and it has just enough stickiness to hold that button down so I could put the display over. And I really wasn't worried about that little bit of Frog Lube damaging any parts. It's supposed to be non-corrosive. Now here you have to make sure that you line up, obviously, the speaker and the button. Oh, this is where I figure out that the button's upside down. I'm an idiot. So I'm unlatching on the latches on either side of the button. You gotta remember not just leave the button in there free floating. I don't think that would work out too well. So I finally got my button on straight, and as you can see, I'm pushing down. You can give it a pretty good amount of push. You got to make sure you get it inside of the bezel around the outside. The screen is just a little bit bigger than the bezel, so you got to push it in there. You got to give it some force. I'm actually pushing pretty hard here. It might not look. So here I am heating up the phone again. I didn't use glue like some other people, or 3M tape. I didn't really know about it. I saw threads after I did this already. So I'm just reheating the glue that was already left on the outside edges. Now I think this is actually the best way to do it, to put it on a flat surface and just push down all over it. I did hear a few clicks and pops. I'm guessing that's the screen popping underneath the bezel. So don't be worried if you hear that sound. I heat this up and push on it probably a good 15 times. I'm gonna probably cut most of it out, but just so you know, I did it a fair amount of times to make sure I reheated all the glue. So here we go, starting for the very first time. I had no idea if this was going to work, so I'm just going through, showing the camera. So to my surprise here, the screen is actually still working. And the touchscreen is just as responsive as it ever was. So this is my guide to how to replace the broken screen on a Galaxy S3. The buttons on the bottom both light up and work just as good as regular. Touchscreen works just as good as regular. We'll see if not putting any kind of glue or anything to hold in the screen works. If my screen falls off, I'll post on the video. Alright, well thanks, and hope you guys can fix your phone.